There are moments in life that define you, moments that show you exactly where you stand in someone's heart. For me, that moment came on what should have been the proudest day of my life, my college graduation. My name is Sarah, and I spent 4 years working toward this day. 4 years of early mornings, late nights, endless stress, and sacrifices most people couldn't imagine. I worked 2 part-time jobs to help pay for school. I studied until my eyes burned. I pushed through anxiety, loneliness, and exhaustion because I wanted to make something of myself. I wanted to prove that all the struggle was worth it. And more than anything, I wanted my parents to be there. I wanted them to see me walk across that stage and finally say, "We're proud of you, Sarah." But 2 weeks before graduation, everything fell apart. I was on the phone with my mom, excitedly talking about the ceremony. I'd already sent them the date months ago. I'd reminded them multiple times. I even offered to buy their plane tickets since they lived 3 states away. "So you're definitely coming, right?" I asked, unable to hide the hope in my voice. There was a pause, a long, uncomfortable pause. "Actually, sweetie," my mom said slowly, "we need to talk about that." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "Well, your sister's prom is the same weekend." I blinked, confused. "Okay, prom is one night. My graduation is Saturday afternoon. You could still make both." "It's not that simple," she said, and I could hear the defensiveness creeping into her tone. "Your sister needs us there. It's a big deal for her. You know how emotional she gets." "Mom, this is my college graduation. I've been working toward this for 4 years." "I know, honey, but you're older. You understand these things. Your sister is only 17. This is her first prom. She's been talking about it for months. We already promised we'd be there to take pictures, help her get ready, meet her date. And I've been talking about my graduation for 4 years," I interrupted, my voice cracking. "You promised you'd be there too." "Sarah, don't be dramatic," my dad's voice cut in. He must have been listening the whole time. "You're 22 years old. You don't need us there holding your hand. Your sister actually needs us." I felt like I'd been slapped. "I'm not asking you to hold my hand. I'm asking you to show up for one of the biggest days of my life. We'll celebrate with you another time," my mom said quickly, like that made it okay. "We'll take you out to dinner when you visit for Christmas. It'll be special, I promise." "Christmas? That's 7 months away." "Sarah, you're being selfish," my dad snapped. "This isn't about you. Your sister needs her family at prom. End of discussion." And just like that, the call ended. They'd made their choice, and it wasn't me. I sat there in my apartment, staring at my phone, feeling completely hollow. This wasn't the first time they'd picked my sister over me, but somehow this hurt more than all the other times combined. Because this time, I'd actually believed they'd show up. Let me tell you about my sister, Madison. She's 5 years younger than me, and from the day she was born, she became the center of my parents' universe. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate my sister. But growing up, it was painfully obvious who the favorite was. When I made honor roll in high school, my parents said, "That's nice, sweetie," and moved on with their day. When Madison brought home a B+ on a science test, they threw her a celebration dinner and posted about it on Facebook. When I got accepted into college with a partial scholarship, they said, "Good job, but you'll need to figure out the rest of the tuition yourself." When Madison wanted to join the cheerleading squad, they paid for everything: uniforms, camps, competitions without question. I learned early on that I had to be independent, that I couldn't rely on them for much. So I got jobs. I applied for every scholarship I could find. I worked my way through school. I built a life for myself because I had to. But some small, desperate part of me still wanted their approval, still wanted them to see me, to be proud of me. Graduation felt like my chance. Finally, after years of hard work and struggle, they'd have to acknowledge what I'd accomplished. They'd have to show up. But they chose a high school prom over my college graduation, a dance over a degree. The days leading up to graduation were torture. I kept hoping they'd change their minds, that they'd realize how much this meant to me and find a way to make it work. But every time I checked my phone, there was nothing. No apology, no reconsideration, just radio silence. Then, 3 days before graduation, My mom texted me a photo. It was Madison in her prom dress, a beautiful, sparkly blue gown that probably cost more than my entire month's rent. The text said, "Doesn't she look stunning? We're so excited for Saturday. Wish you could be here to see her." I stared at that message for a long time. Wish you could be here. Like I was the one who was busy. Like I was the one who'd chosen something else. I didn't respond. What was there to say? Graduation day came. I put on my cap and gown, walked across that stage, and accepted my diploma. My friends cheered. My roommate took pictures. My favorite professor gave me a hug and told me he was proud of me. But when I looked out into the crowd, searching for my parents' faces, all I saw were strangers, empty seats where they should have been. I smiled for the photos. I celebrated with my friends. But inside, I felt completely alone. That night, I got a text from my mom. It was a group of photos from Madison's prom. Her and her date. Her and her friends, my parents beaming in the background. The message said, "What an amazing night. Madison had the time of her life. Hope your graduation went well too. Love you." Hope your graduation went well too. Like it was an afterthought. Like it didn't matter. I turned off my phone and cried myself to sleep. I thought that was the end of it. That I'd just swallow the hurt, move on, and keep my distance like I always did. But 2 weeks later, everything changed. I'd been avoiding my parents since graduation. I didn't answer their calls. I kept my texts short and polite. I needed space to process the hurt without them trying to justify what they'd done. But then, one evening, my phone rang. It was my dad. And for some reason, I answered. "Sarah," he said, his voice warm and cheerful, like nothing was wrong. "How's my college graduate doing?" I stayed quiet. "Listen," he continued, not noticing or not caring about my silence. "Your mom and I were talking, and we have some exciting news. We're planning a family trip to Hawaii this summer. All four of us. We figured it's been a while since we did something together as a family, and—" "No," I said flatly. There was a pause. "What?" "I'm not going." "Sarah, don't be ridiculous. It's a family vacation. It'll be fun. We already looked at resorts." I said no. "Why not?" he asked, and I could hear the irritation creeping into his voice. "Because I don't want to spend a week pretending we're a happy family when you couldn't even show up to my graduation." Silence. "Sarah," my mom's voice cut in. She must have been listening on speaker. "We already explained that. Madison needed us." "And I didn't," I shot back, my voice shaking. "I didn't need my parents at the biggest achievement of my life." "You're being overdramatic," my dad said. "It was just a graduation. You walked across a stage for 10 seconds. Madison's prom was a once-in-a-lifetime experience." I laughed bitterly. "A once-in-a-lifetime experience?" "Dad, I spent 4 years working toward that degree. 4 years of stress, exhaustion, and sacrifice. And you're telling me it's less important than a high school dance?" "That's not what we're saying," my mom said defensively. "But you're an adult now, Sarah. You have to understand that your sister still needs us, in ways you don't." "I needed you to show up," I shouted, tears streaming down my face. "Just once. I needed you to choose me. But you didn't. You never do." "That's not fair," my dad snapped. "We've always been there for you." "Really? When? When have you ever put me first? When have you ever celebrated my accomplishments the way you celebrate Madison's? You didn't even send me a card for graduation." "We were busy," my mom said. "We had a lot going on that weekend." "Because you chose to be busy with something else," I yelled. "You made a choice, and it wasn't me." "You're being incredibly selfish right now," my dad said coldly. "We're trying to do something nice by inviting you on this trip, and you're throwing it in our faces. If you can't be grateful for what we do for you—" "Grateful?" I interrupted. "You want me to be grateful that you're inviting me on a vacation after you missed my graduation? Are you serious right now?" "Sarah, that's enough," my mom said firmly. "You're being ungrateful and disrespectful. We've done nothing but support you your entire life, and this is how you treat us?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They genuinely didn't see the problem. They genuinely thought I was the one being unreasonable. "You know what?" I said quietly, my voice cold and steady. "I'm done. I'm done begging for scraps of your attention. I'm done pretending it doesn't hurt that you've never made me a priority. And I'm definitely done with this conversation. Sarah, my mom started. Don't call me unless you're ready to apologize. And I mean a real apology. Not an excuse, not a justification. An actual acknowledgement of what you did and how it made me feel. Until then, I don't want to hear from you. And I hung up. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. But for the first time in my life, I felt powerful. I'd stood up to them. I'd set a boundary. And I wasn't backing down. The days that followed were chaos. My phone exploded with messages. Not from my parents directly, but from extended family members. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all of them telling me I was being too harsh, that I should forgive and forget. That family is family, and I was being immature. My mom had apparently called everyone and painted me as the villain, the ungrateful daughter who attacked them for no reason, who refused a generous family vacation out of spite. She left out the part about missing my graduation, of course. But here's the thing, I didn't care anymore. I was done trying to explain myself to people who would never understand. Done defending my hurt to people who didn't want to hear it. I blocked the family members who came at me with judgment instead of support. I stayed silent on social media. I focused on my new job, my friends, and building a life that didn't revolve around chasing my parents' approval. Then, about 3 weeks after our fight, something unexpected happened. My grandmother called me, my dad's mom. We'd always been close, but we hadn't spoken since graduation because she'd been traveling. "Sarah, sweetheart," she said gently, "I just heard what happened. Your mother told me you refused to go on the Hawaii trip, but she didn't tell me why. So I called your friend Jessica, and she told me the truth, that they missed your graduation for Madison's prom." I felt tears prick my eyes. Finally, someone who understood. "I'm so sorry, baby," Grandma said, her voice breaking. "That was wrong. So wrong. And I told your father exactly that." "You did?" "I absolutely did. I called him this morning and gave him a piece of my mind. I told him he should be ashamed of himself. That you worked so hard, and they threw it away for a dance." He tried to defend himself, but I shut that down real quick. I smiled through my tears. "Thank you, Grandma. You don't need to thank me for telling the truth, honey. What you need to know is, this: you are not wrong. You are not being ungrateful. You set a boundary, and that's healthy. I'm proud of you." Those words, "I'm proud of you," broke something open in me. I sobbed on the phone while my grandmother comforted me from 1,000 miles away. "Now," she said firmly, "I have a proposition. I want to throw you a proper graduation celebration. A party. With your friends, your chosen family, and anyone who actually showed up for you when it mattered. What do you say?" "Grandma, you don't have to." "I want to," she insisted. "You deserve to be celebrated, Sarah. And if your parents won't do it, then I will." 2 months later, my grandmother flew out and threw me the most beautiful graduation party I could have imagined. She rented a small venue, hired a caterer, and invited all my friends and their families. She even had a huge photo board made with pictures from my college years, things my parents never bothered to keep or display. At the party, my grandmother gave a toast. She talked about how proud she was of me, how hard I'd worked, how much I'd overcome, and how I deserved to be surrounded by people who truly valued me. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. My parents weren't invited, and I didn't feel bad about it. It's been a year since all of that happened. My relationship with my parents is complicated. They eventually sent me a half-hearted apology over text. It said something like, "We're sorry you felt hurt. We didn't mean to upset you. Can we move past this?" Notice they never actually said they were sorry for what they did, just sorry that I felt bad about it. I didn't respond. A few months later, my dad called and asked if I'd be coming home for Christmas. I told him I had other plans. He got angry and said I was holding a grudge. I told him I was protecting my peace. He hung up. Madison reached out once, asking why I was punishing Mom and Dad. I explained what happened from my perspective. She said, "I didn't ask them to skip your graduation." And she was right, she didn't. But she also didn't seem to understand why it mattered so much. That's when I realized she'd never had to fight for their attention. She'd never been the second choice, so she couldn't understand what it felt like to always come last. I don't hate my family, but I also don't owe them access to my life when they've repeatedly shown me I'm not a priority. These days, I'm thriving. I have a great job, amazing friends, and a life I'm genuinely proud of. My grandmother visits twice a year, and we talk every week. She's the family I needed all along. So what's the lesson here? What did I learn from all of this? Asterisk, asterisk. You teach people how to treat you. Asterisk, asterisk. And for years, I taught my parents that I'd always forgive them, that I'd always come back, that I'd accept whatever scraps of love they offered, no matter how small. But when I finally set a boundary and said, "This isn't okay," everything changed. Not because they suddenly respected me, but because I finally respected myself. Sometimes, the people who should love you the most will hurt you the deepest. And when that happens, you have a choice. You can keep accepting it, keep making excuses, keep hoping they'll change. Or you can walk away and build a life with people who actually show up for you. I chose the latter, and I've never been happier. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. Asterisk, asterisk. Your worth is not determined by who shows up for you. It's determined by how you show up for yourself. Asterisk, asterisk. My parents missed my graduation, but I didn't miss the chance to honor my own hard work, my own journey, my own victory. And in the end, that's what mattered most. My name is Sarah, and this is how I learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to settle for people who don't value you.